Hello, welcome to More Yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you are all doing well and enjoying the weather, whatever it may be. As I record this, it is bucketing rain here in Vancouver, so it's a good day to be inside and practice some yoga. We have a family of crows in our neighborhood, and they seem to be quite possessive of our yard. So today we're going to learn crow pose. I'm going to break it down into different stages, and it might look, for those people or those of you who have never done it, it might look super daunting or impressive or whatever, but it's one of the most accessible arm balances in yoga, easily, because you're resting the weight of your legs on your arms, right, rather than having to use your core strength to keep them up. Blocks are handy if you have them, because sometimes bringing the hands all the way down to the floor, particularly if you have tight back or hamstrings, can be quite tricky with crow pose. So bringing the floor up to you might give you a bit of an advantage. Also, because sometimes you can grip the blocks, giving you even more strength through the forearms. If you don't have them, don't worry about it. It's all good. Let's start in a tall seat. You can be cross-legged or on your shins, legs outstretched, whatever feels comfortable for you. And for 3 breaths, inhale deeply through your nose. Exhale, sigh. A breath away. A couple more. And continue breathing however you need to, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. Try to find just a natural breath or slightly longer than natural breath. You don't need to breathe too deep in yoga. As you breathe today, I want you to guide your attention to the space between your shoulder blades. You might even let it move a little bit. With every inhale, the shoulder blades sort of separate and that space between them puffs up. And as you exhale, release. This is not a very natural way to breathe, but it's a really cool way to draw attention to that space. So a few more just like that. Inhale. And exhale. And maybe they don't move at all, but you're just aware of that space between the shoulder blades. A few more breaths here. At the end of your next exhale, gently flick all your eyelids open. Shake it out a little bit. Make your way to hands and knees. So eventually setting up with knees underneath hips. Toes can be tucked or untucked. And then hands outer shoulder width apart or wider. Little draw of belly button to spine. And as you inhale, lift the tailbone to the sky. Hollow through the lower back. Broaden through the collarbones. Cow pose. Exhale, round through your spine. Really press it up to the sky. Into cat. And then inhale, slowly coming into cow. Exhale, round to cat. So a few more of these spinal undulations on your own time, on your own breath. But again, can you really draw attention to the movement here of the shoulder blades? They retract as you dip the belly in cow. They protract in cat. And if there's any other movement that you would like to take here, feel free to move how you need to move, getting into your own body. One more inhale. One sweet exhale. And then come back to center. And I want you to come up onto fingertips on both hands. And we've done this before, maybe you haven't, but you want to start to flick the fingers on the right hand. And it's like you're trying to drag the floor together, like you're trying to bunch up your mat or the floor underneath you. So there's quite a bit of work going on here. All right. And then we'll switch to the other hand. Left hand, really flicking the fingers toward each other. Sometimes on the floor it's almost too easy, so if you do it on the mat, there's that little bit of extra resistance. And I'm going to switch to the mat because that feels good for me. And then do both at the same time. A little bit more core work involved here. Keep flicking the fingers toward each other, clawing at the mat. 3, 2, 1. Pause. Fingertips really wide, and then start to bring your hands down. Eventually, the heels of the hands come down, but most of your weight should be into the finger pads, into the base of the fingers, knuckle mound. And there you might feel a little pocket in the palm of the hand, that little lift. That's called Hasta Bandha, and it's an indication that your forearms are working quite a lot here. And anytime you're balancing or bearing weight on your hands or exclusively on your hands, you want that activation in the forearms so that you're not just dumping into the little tiny bones in your wrists. Okay, now in hands and knees with those fingers spread nice and wide. Again, we're just going to drop the chest. Elbows stay straight. And then press up. Again, elbows stay straight. So this is your basic scapular push-up. So starting to work all the muscles that attach to the shoulders, the shoulder girdle. For some of you, you might want to add a little bit more weight to it, in which case shuffle the knees back and then shift your weight forward. So you're in low plank as you do this. Some of you maybe are going to come into full high plank, knees off the floor, for the scapular push-ups. Last few breaths here. And exhale, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Pedal out the heels a little bit. Wag your tail from side to side. Maybe you play with coming up on fingertips on one hand and then the other, or maybe both at the same time. And come down to your hands again, fingers spread nice and wide. Feel that little lift in the palm of the hand. And belly button to spine, send the sit bones back. And then bend your knees, look forward. On your exhale, take as many steps or hops or forward as you need to, coming into standing forward fold, knees bent. You could sway a little bit from side to side if that feels good. You could grab opposite elbows with hands. Some of you might rest your elbows on your knees or thighs for a little bit more support. You could even interlace your hands behind your head, getting more traction through the neck. Last few breaths here. If your arms are bound, then release them. And with your fingertips to your shins, or maybe the earth, inhale, little partway lift, little drop, belly button to spine. Exhale, let it go. Couple more. And then bend your knees, tuck your chin into your chest, head heavy, arms heavy. Slowly roll up to standing, one vertebra at a time. Slow as you need to go. Until eventually you come up Little loop of the shoulders, up, back, and down. Little wiggle or shake out, however you need to shake out. And then feel a hug of the legs toward each other. Tailbone to the earth, slightly belly bend to spine. Shoulder blades on your back. On your inhale, sweep the arms up to the sky. Exhale, melt to the earth, forward fold. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, let it go. Plant your hands. Inhale, step back to plank again, either from the toes, from the knees, or maybe just hands and knees, wherever you need to go today. Squeeze the bum, squeeze the tops of the thighs, and let's get a couple more of those scapular push-ups. Elbows stay straight. 3, 2, 1. Look to the top edge of the mat. You can come down to your knees first. Exhale, lower all the way down to the earth. Untuck your toes. Hug your legs toward each other. Tops of the feet press into the earth. Wrap your shoulder blades onto your back. Inhale, lift the heart forward and up. Baby cobra. And exhale down. A few more of these on your own time, on your own breath. Any variation that feels good. If you're coming all the way up into full cobra though, make sure you squeeze the bum so you don't crank into the lower back. And then bring your hands back underneath you. Tuck your toes. Exhale, lift up and back. Downward facing dog. You might step the feet in slightly. Wrap the upper arm bones toward each other. And then try to find that space again between the shoulder blades. You don't want the armpits opening up so that you're retracting the shoulder blades. You want to wrap the upper arm bones toward each other, almost like you're trying to hug your armpits toward each other. And that'll puff up the space a little bit between the shoulder blades. Bend your knees, look forward. Exhale, walk, step, or hop to the top edge of the mat. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, sweep all the way up to the sky. Exhale, right back down to the earth. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Step back to plank. Exhale, lower all the way or partway to the earth. Inhale, baby cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Couple breaths here. On your inhale, lift your right leg high, three-legged dog. As you exhale, draw knee to nose, shoulders over wrists, hips high. Inhale, back up. Exhale, right knee to right armpit or elbow, hips high. Inhale, back up. Exhale, draw the knee across to the opposite side. Don't let the hips drop. Inhale, back up. Exhale, knee comes to nose, and then pause. Again, press the floor away. Feel that space between the shoulder blades. And then exhale, step your right foot outside your right hand. So it's quite a wide step. And then gently release your back knee to the floor or to a chipped foam block or pillow or any sort of cushioning that you might have. All right, so here we are in this sort of modified lizard pose. I want you to keep that front foot parallel to start with and really hug that front shin into your shoulder on that right hand side. Some of us will get a lot more space for the hips if you spin that back shin parallel to the short edge of your mat, and then keep your hips high as you melt your heart low. So it's the opposite of coming forward into that lunge, right? This is a really great place to stay. Really hugging that front knee in toward you, or you might thread that right upper arm underneath, hand to the outside of the right foot, and then you can use your arm to hug the leg in. You might stay here. Some of you might spread your wings. Some of you might choose to bind. Back knee can stay down. Some of you might lift it up in any of these variations. Wherever you need to go, last couple breaths. And then inhale, slowly, gently unwind. Shift your hips back and extend through the front leg. And then let the heel slide out a little bit more on an angle. So it's a wide half split, right? Or if you think of it like a single leg, wide leg forward fold. I don't know. I like calling it a wide Hanuman. So wrap your left hip forward as you draw the right hip back, belly button to spine. Right, hands can be on hips or on blocks or on the floor. Really active toes on that front foot. And then as soon as we take the foot out to the side or the leg out to the side, you have a tendency to let that right hip or femur even kind of jut forward. So I want you to think of dragging that front heel back toward you and like you're socketing that femur back into the right hip. You might stay up high here. Some of you maybe will slide out. So if you have hardwood floor, it's quite a bit easier. But make sure that you're not hyperextending that knee so there's still buoyancy here. Last couple breaths. And then slowly, especially if you're all the way down, take your time, come back up, drag the front heel back toward you or heel and toe it back in. And then bring it into neutral, into center. Step your back leg to meet the front leg, standing forward fold. Little wiggle, little shake. Inhale, lift up part way. Exhale, fold. Heel and toe, whoops, the feet together so that your big toe mounds are touching. There might be space between your heels. And on your inhale, sit into chair pose. Okay, here we go. So we've been working the upper body, the arms for crow. Now let's get into what the legs are doing. So use these big inner thigh muscles. Hug your legs toward each other like crazy. What this does, it takes all the pressure off the tops of the thighs while you're in chair. But also when you're in crow, it's going to give you that support, that hugging in, even though the legs will be wide. Tailbone down slightly till you feel the belly button engaged toward the spine. And let's just keep hands in prayer, or even bring them out in front, as if we were balancing here. Last couple breaths in chair. Exhale, release, forward fold. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, let it go. Bend your knees, plant your hands, step back, flow, or downward facing dog. On your inhale, lift your left leg high, three-legged dog. Exhale, knee to nose, shoulders over wrists. Inhale, back up. Exhale, left knee to left armpit or elbow, hips high. Inhale, back up. Exhale, draw the knee across to the opposite side. Inhale, back up. Exhale, knee to nose, and then pause for a couple breaths. Exhale, step the left foot outside the left hand. Back knee gently comes to the floor or to your chip foam block. And then back out of the hips a little bit. Really actively start to hug that left knee in toward the left shoulder. Keep your hips high and then exhale. Start to dip the chest or the heart down. Again, this is a great place to stay. Maybe you spin that back shin parallel to the short edge of the mat. Gives your hips a little bit more space so that you can fold deeper. Or maybe you thread the left arm underneath, taking the hand to the outside of the foot. Some of you might spread your wings or bind. Back leg can be up or down. Last couple breaths here. And then inhale slowly. Gently unwind. Start to shift your hips back as you extend through the front leg and let it come out on an angle. Wrap the right hip forward. Draw the left hip back. Again, hands might be on your hips, or if you have blocks or Tupperware containers or whatever you might use, then hands can come to blocks or maybe to the floor. And then make sure that the hip isn't hiking up or that the femur isn't sneaking away from you. So think of dragging the front heel back toward you. Even if you are sliding out to a deeper variation, you still want to feel that little retraction back, right? If you're all the way down, you might even cup your heel with your thumb and forefinger. Last couple breaths here. Little micro bend in that front knee. And then slowly, gently back out of it, whatever way works for you. Heel into that front foot, back into neutral, and then step to the top edge of your mat, standing forward fold. Little wiggle, or sway, or bounce. Fingertips to shins or blocks. Inhale, partway lift. Exhale, fold. Okay, heel and toe the feet together. Again, big toe mounds touching. And then inhale, chair pose. Second set. So hug those legs toward each other. Tailbone down, belly button to spine. Shoulders on your back, right? You don't need to creep them up or round forward. Few breaths here. Any arm variation of your choice, but really use that activation. Like crazy. Hug those legs toward each other. Last couple breaths. Exhale, release, forward fold. Heel and toe the feet apart, hip width again. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, let it all go. 2 more. You can sigh or flutter your lips. Heel and toe your feet apart wider and on an angle so that your toes might be off the edge of your mat. And on your inhale, sit into squat or malasana. So this might not be comfortable for you today, in which case take the feet wider, and then you could just rest your elbows on your knees or thighs. Otherwise, sink down a little bit deeper. Bring your elbows inside the knees, and then use them to press the knees open, but hug back for today with the knees against the elbows. Shoulder blades come onto the back, nice and long, and then bring your hands forward in front of you. This is essentially your crow pose, although the feet will be touching when you're balancing, right? Really puff up that space a little bit between the shoulder blades. Belly button to spine, blueprinting this position. Keep hugging knees into elbows, press elbows into knees, and release. Sit down, shake it out a little bit. Whew. Little windshield wiper of the legs. And then come to seated. You might take a little lift of the flesh of your sit bone or underneath the sit bones back and away so that you can really find grounding or anchoring into the floor. If your leg is cramping or your hip is cramping like me, then do what you need to do. And then start to lean back gently. So long spine, belly button to spine. This is a really great starter position for boat or navasana. If you are pregnant, this is as far as you're going to go. You might even have your hands here because you don't want diastasis recti. Anyway, stay here. Some of you might start to pick up one leg or both. Maybe you have your hands behind your thighs, and that's a really great place to help wrap the shoulders onto the back. Peel the toes away from each other. Maybe you deviate the hands. Good. Keep the toes together, bend the knees, bring the elbows inside. Now we're really blueprinting crow. Right? Fingers spread wide. Hug the elbows in toward the knees. Last couple breaths. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Last one. Okay. Rock forward, cross your legs, plant your hands, step back, flow, or downward facing dog. Or child's pose for a few breaths, wherever you need to be. Okay, if you're in child's pose, meet us back in downward facing dog. Bend your knees, look forward. Exhale. Walk, step, or hop to the top edge of the mat. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Whew. Heel into the feet apart again. And then come back down into your squat. So if you know that crow is not going to be a good place for you today, then stay here. Squatting is always a good thing to do. Make sure you're not just hanging out on the bottom though, that there's activation. If, however, you'd like to work crow or crane, then here we go. Plant your hands down in front of you. Imagine again that you've got that activation in the palms of the hands, and then lift the hips up a little bit. This is going to be the easiest way to come into it. Toes come together behind you, knees wide, rock your weight forward. And when you're doing crow and crane, it's important to look forward, because if you look down, that's where your weight is going to go and you might topple over. Okay, so knees wide, and then maybe you do this a little bit. Rock forward and back, bringing the knees to the upper arms, bend the elbows a little bit, look forward, hug the upper arm bones toward each other, hug the legs toward each other. Maybe you de-weight one leg, maybe you de-weight both. If so, tap the toes together behind you, and it's like it's completing the circuit. Few more rounds of breath playing here if you would like to. Now the other option that I mentioned was if you have blocks, sometimes it can make it a little bit more accessible for people. So again, knees come as high up the back of the arms as they can get. Rock forward, look forward. Maybe you pick up the feet and fly. Pause the video if you want to keep playing here. Last couple breaths. And then I know some of you are able to do this. If you're still flying, can you think of hopping back to plank and then flow or downward facing dog? It's not something I'm able to do yet. Okay, from downward facing dog, inhale, ripple forward, high plank. Exhale, lower all the way down to the floor. Little wiggle of the hips from side to side. Untuck your toes, press the tops of the feet into the floor. Belly button to spine, tailbone to the back wall. Reach your arms back along beside you. Palms might be up or down. And then inhale, lift the heart forward and up. Back the neck stays really long. Still looking down rather than forward. Some of you might interlace your hands behind your back, getting a release through the chest and the shoulders from all that work. Some of you might reach the legs so far back that they de-weight as well. Wherever you need to go. Last couple breaths. And then exhale, release all the way down to the floor. One cheek to the earth. Deep belly breaths to release through the lower back. And then roll over to your back. Hug your knees into your chest. Take a little rock from side to side. And bring your feet to the floor, hip width apart, parallel and parallel. Close enough into your bum, you can tickle your heels with your fingertips. And then press your feet into the earth. Slowly lift the pelvis and the spine up and away. You might walk onto the outside edge of the shoulders. Maybe you clasp your hands behind your back. We have just one round of this today, so go where you need to go. And if the knees are flaring out, think of those chair pose muscles, but not so much that the legs touch, just so they draw back into neutral. And then slowly, on your exhale, release back down to the floor. Hug your knees toward you. Take your right arm out to the side. You might shift your hips right a little bit. Exhale, lower the knees to the left. As gentle or as deep of a twist as you need. I might look along the right arm. Just finish off the spiral in the neck. And then slowly inhale back to center. Shift your hips left. Left arm goes out to the side. Drop your knees to the right. Again, as gentle or as deep of a twist as you need. And then inhale back to center. Reset your spine and your pelvis. If there's anything else you feel like you need today, maybe a happy baby to help release those chair pose muscles, that could be a good thing. You could just hold the back of the thighs or even take the knees wide. And then when you're ready for your rest, think about where you would like to go, whether it's flat on your back, legs bent or straight. You could rest on your side or in child's pose or in a seated meditation. Once you've found your pose of rest for 3 breaths, inhale deeply through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. A couple more, just like that. Let go of all breath control. Any last muscle gripping or tension. Stay here in your rest as long as you can. 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.